In this video, I'm going to walk you through the steps of learning Crazy Train by Ozzy Osbourne. First, we're going to warm up your fingers by practicing the basic rudimentary moves that are used in this riff. Then after that, we're going to split the riff into chunks so they're easier to remember and master each chunk separately. And then when you've mastered each chunk individually, we'll work on gluing the chunks together and looping the full riff until you're at full speed, pretty much. It's going to be easy. Just do what I do. This is a classic riff that just about everybody knows, and it's great for building speed as well as finger dexterity. It's also got a lot of repetition built into it, so it's pretty easy to memorize. We're going to learn this riff in 5 rounds of starting slow and gradually speeding up. In the first 2 rounds, we're just going to warm up your fingers by working on the rudimentary moves. And here's what I mean by that. In the first measure, we've got this 4-2, 5-2, 4-2 thing that happens. So first, we're going to work on cleanly moving between those 2 things. 4-2 to 5-2 to 4-2 to 5-2. Starting at 50% of normal speed, we'll just go back and forth between 4-2 and 5-2 4 times. Here's what that looks like at our target goal of 70% of normal speed. And then after that, we're going to work on the rudimentary move that happens in the second measure. 2, 5, 4, 5. Again, we'll start at 50%. We'll play that 4 times in a row and increase the speed until we get to 70%. Here's what that looks like. And then after that, your fingers will be warmed up and you'll have a solid foundation for learning the actual riff. Normally, when you're learning a riff, a song, or a solo, you want to break it into chunks that are easy to remember, master those chunks, and then work on gluing all of them together. Luckily, for this riff, the best way to split it up into chunks is just to go 1 measure at a time. So for round 3, we're just going to master the first measure. We'll start at 50% of normal speed and work our way up to 90% to avoid a copyright strike, because I'm worried about that. For each speed, we're going to play the first measure 4 times with a 4-count break in between. So we play for a measure, rest for a measure, play for a measure, rest for a measure, play for a measure, rest for a measure, play for a measure. Got that? Here's what it looks like. And then for round 4, we're just going to do the same thing as round 3, but with the second measure. Here's what that looks like, in case you want to see it. And then, after all of that tedious work, you'll have each piece mastered, and the rest is going to be relatively simple. We just got to work on gluing and looping. So for the final round, we'll play the riff 2 times in a row, starting at 50%, so you have some thinking and planning time, and we'll work up to 90%. Then if you want to try it at normal speed, I guess you'll just have to pull up the real recording. Now, I've taught this riff hundreds, maybe thousands of times, so there are a few things I do want to mention that might help you get ahead of a few things. First, this isn't really a technique thing, it's more of a memorization thing, but I do want to point out that in the first measure, all the 2s are on the 6th string, and all the 4s and 5s are on the 5th string. And then in the second measure, those swap, and the 2s end up on the 5th string, and the 4s and 5s end up on the 6th string. I don't know, it's just an interesting pattern. It might make it easier to compute. On the technique side of things, one reason I love teaching this riff is it's a great way to practice lining your fingers up with frets and keeping your hand steady. I see a lot of students try to move their hand as they're playing this riff, but I feel like I'm constantly reminding students to keep their thumb in one spot behind the 3rd and 4th frets and to stretch their fingers over the frets rather than shifting. So instead of this or this, you want to line your fingers up with frets 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then just use whatever finger is closest to that fret you need. Another common thing I see my students do is they try to leave their pointer finger down on the 6th string as they're playing the notes on the 5th string, which is thoughtful, but we want to avoid overlapping notes because it makes it sound muddy. Instead, you want to focus on walking your fingers, which means that you lift a finger off whenever you're putting one down, like your feet do when you're walking. It will sound cleaner, and I promise it's actually less of a mental load than trying to plan ahead like that. One more thing. While I would love to teach you every real song and riff that I teach in my private lessons, I am worried about copyright strikes. So I'm purposely trying to make it so this play along doesn't sound like the real recording. I'm going to use a different drum beat to help it sound different from the recording. So if you hate that the play along doesn't sound like the recording, I'm sorry, but that's kind of the point. Hopefully it motivates you to go give some views to the main Ozzy Osbourne channel. All right, let's get into it. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Ready, go. Ready, go. All right, round 1, done. If you thought that was challenging, it might be a good idea to go check out some spider crawl exercises that I did back in level 1. Work on your finger dexterity for a couple weeks and come back and try it again. But if not, let's try round 2. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Ready, go. Ready, go. All right, nice work with round 2. Now let's start actually playing the riff. Here's round 3. 1, 2, ready, go. 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 All right, round 3 done. Maybe you're breaking a sweat, maybe not. Let's try round 4. 1, 2, ready, go. Ready, go. Ready, go. Ready, go. 1, 2, ready, go. Ready, go. Ready, go. Ready, go. 1, 2, ready, go. Ready, go. All right, last one. 1, 2, ready, go. All right, I promise this is going to be worth it. You've done all the tedious work. Now it's time for round 5. Can you do it? I believe in you. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Ready, go. Ready, go. Ready, go. All right, last one. 1, 2, ready, go. Well, how'd it go? Did you make it all the way through on your first try, or do you think it's going to take a couple weeks? Let me know in the comments. Now, if you got to 90% with me, there's a pretty good chance you could get to 100% with the actual recording. Guess there's only one way to find out. You got this. And if you want to support the channel, all you got to do is keep my caffeine levels up, which is easy. You just click the link in the comments. And if you want to support the channel with even less effort, just click some of these buttons. YouTube loves it. I love it. And maybe someday you'll learn to love it too. All right, rock on. Practice till your fingers bleed. I'll see you in the next one.